Good afternoon, YouTube. I'm going to be reviewing some of my favorite movies from my collection, and there's a lot to talk about, so we're going to jump right in. The best director of the United States and the world is Oliver Stone, and this is the complete Oliver Stone collection. Not so complete, he has made other movies, and some of the best copies are not available in this collection. My favorite Oliver Stone movie is JFK, and this is a much more expanded copy. Followed very closely by Platoon, Salvador, Talk Radio, and Nixon. His realism, he's taken realism to new levels in American cinema, and also his ability and willingness to interject real political issues and ideas through the realism and the unbelievable high speed amphetamine driven style of his filmmaking is just bar none. So, moving on. I even have a copy of his book, Oliver Stone's USA, which is essays pro and con, and some essays by him. And he's also a great writer. Moving on. Other movies that I like, Citizen Cone with James Woods. Much better than Citizen Kane. This is about Roy Cohn, the right-wing lawyer for the American on Unactivities Committee. Joe McCarthy's strong right-hand man. He ruined a lot of lives, and he started off corrupt, but he got corrupter. It's kind of a morality tale of lawyers in America and the right wing in America. Classic movie. Other classics, I actually have VHS tapes. That's how old I am. But Mr. Smith Goes to Washington. Frank Capra movies are good. It's a Wonderful Life was the first movie I ever watched all the way through, and also Meet John Doe with Gary Cooper. Great movie. I cried during that one. Medium Cool from 1969. Haskell Wexler movie. It is part documentary, part movie. It recounts the horrendously bad police riot of the 1968 Democratic Convention in Chicago. It is a classic in my eyes. More VHS tapes. Metropolitan by Whit Stillman, his first film in the trilogy. He made two more, Barcelona and The Last Days of Disco. It's very close to a Woody Allen-esque, witty type of movie. But Woody Allen's early movies, the good ones, like Annie Hall and Love or Death. One of my all-time favorites. Moving on. I've got a lot to get through here. The Fog of War by Errol Morris. A fantastic documentary on McNamara. There are some good biographies and autobiographies about him, but the movie's even better. It's just awesome. Waking Life, which is a rotoscope type of animated movie. Very deep, philosophical movie. I like some foreign films, particularly some German ones tend to be very good. Downfall, The Last Days of Hitler, is an incredibly well done version of The Last Days in the Bunker. And there was an American type version of this called The Bunker with Anthony Hopkins, made in 1980, and it was good. But this is better because they're in an actual bunker, they're speaking actual German, and it is phenomenal. Okay. Action movies. This is probably the only action movie I'd put on the list. The Siege, 1999, Annette Bening and Denzel Washington. This movie was kind of geared to be a blockbuster, but wasn't. But it has some of the best one-liners of any action movie made in America in the 20th century. And eerily prescient of the 9/11 attacks. A group of Muslim terrorist cells in Manhattan start blowing up buildings. I know. Where does Hollywood get this stuff? And there's more accurate information on Mideast politics and Islam in this movie than we've seen in the mass media in the last 15, 16 years since the attack. Moving on. Classics. Network, 1976, Faye Dunaway. other people. This movie is really a classic. Not only is it still funny and hold up, but the point of the movie does. 1976 was a sort of a turning point into the media's going um, very. It's going for the dollars. It's going for sensationalism. It's being manipulated. It is being bought up by large corporations, and the country's becoming more corrupt, even politically, as corporations start to put money in the system. And even in the movie, there's a large concern over the Saudi influence as they get money and try to influence our political system for the worse. And certainly that would come to fruition. Again, there's a 9/11 tie-in there. More classics. Scarface, written by Oliver Stone, by the way, the greatest movie writer and director of all time. Manchurian Candidate, the original, is a classic. 1962-63, still holds up. Very haunting. Um, the remake with Denzel Washington, I thought just as good, maybe slightly better. They both have their own value. Bob Roberts with Tim Robbins, funny. At the time, it was just the most epic condemnation of the right wing folk singer. Classic. No Way Out with Sean Young and what's his name, Kevin Costner. Now, the political movies are kind of hard to do. That's why nobody can really do it but Oliver Stone. But this one really holds up, and you gotta love Sean Young as that cynical, alcoholic, high-end hooker. I think she was literally drunk during this entire movie. Anyway, phenomenal. And Reality Bites, 1992. Now, Winona Ryder's probably one of her only two good movies, this and Heathers, and Janine Garofalo, my hero, and I saw it when I was in college. It is the Gen X standard. Some would say it's not a particularly memorable or even a particularly good movie, but at the time it was just what I needed. I remember I was trying to pass this particularly hard physics class with a real jerk of a teacher, and I was very anxious, and the movie just a group of college friends, and it's just got a good it's just so accurate to that time and tone that it is a generation classic, Gen X classic. And then there are some movies that are different. Wonderland. This was an underrated movie. Val Kilmer. It's in the JFK type of Oliver Stone movie making style, but it's the true story of the Wonderland, or more commonly called the Laurel Canyon killings, the Laurel Canyon murders in LA, which were the most famous since the Manson murders involving John Holmes and some gangsters. And it is a totally accurate, true story, and it's really similar to JFK in that way. I mean, it's a good true crime movie, and this would be the only true crime movie probably on the list other than JFK. I guess it depends on how you look at it. The Beast. This is an underrated, unknown movie. Jason Patric, I want to say 1989. You have to look it up. It's about the war in Afghanistan, the Russian invasion of Afghanistan, and it's sort of like a Vietnam movie in that we're seeing it from the Russian point of view, just like the American soldiers in Vietnam are trying to win this unwinnable bad idea of a war, and you see the Stone Age nature of the tribal culture of Afghanistan, and you realize it was a big mistake for the Russians to go in. It is an American movie, but it has an unusual amount of depth, and again, prescience. If everybody had seen this movie, we wouldn't still be in Afghanistan after 15 years. Obama said he's just going to leave the troops there. It's the longest war in American history. The war goes on. We need to get out of Afghanistan, people. Come on. I'm so disappointed in Obama. Happiness. This is a very dark comedy, and I generally only like comedies if they're pretty dark. It is kind of depressing, but it's a very, very dark comedy. kind of reminds me of The Heart is the Lonely Hunter. Um, Another comment here, Your Friends and Neighbors, also cynical and dark, but realistic. That's my experience of life. And okay, here's an interesting one, The Island of Dr. Moreau with Val Kilmer and Marlon Brando. This is a James Frankenheimer movie, who did the original Manchurian Candidate and several other good movies that aren't coming to me now. This is generally considered the worst movie ever made. In fact, there's a documentary on the making of this movie trying to explain how it got so bad. I disagree. I think the movie has great value. There's great animal makeup, and you get sort of you kind of get to meditate in the movie on humans' connection to animals and genetics and crazy Marlon Brando and that. But I'd recommend this movie and the documentary about the making of this movie, which the name of it's not coming to me right now. But The Rapture. This is an even smaller movie. Mimi Rogers and David Duchovny. But I've never rented a movie where I was more pleased with how good it was. It's about a woman who's bored with her life because she's a phone operator in customer service. Boy, I've been there. And as a result, she joins a Christian religious cult. And David Duchovny tries to use free thinking and rationality to talk her out of it. But there's a massive failure there. Okay. And, one of my all-time favorites. Ruby in Paradise. This is Ashley Judd's first movie, 1992, won the Sundance Award. And it is about a young girl who moves to Panama City, Florida from Tennessee to escape her redneck fundamentalist Christian background and live on her own, unbeholden, and be by herself on her own terms. And she's very introverted, and she's kind of Asperger's, kind of aspy, to be honest. And it makes sense from an introverted Jungian type way. Although the movie has very little plot, it is one of my favorite movies of all time. In fact, this is the reason why I moved to Panama City. Was I saw this movie and I thought, shit, that sounds like a good idea. And I moved down there and burned up in the hot sun wearing steel-toed boots, trying to keep people from drowning and trying to secure that port. And eventually moved back to Georgia. But yeah, and Ashley Judd is probably has the best on-screen presence of all time. It's been her career, it hasn't been fully utilized, but this movie, also The Locust, is good, and A Normal Life with Luke Perry. That's one of my favorites because Ashley Judd's on-screen presence is so good. And these movies are real, about real people. They're not Hollywood-esque into showing, non-working class people. Another one that's a rare film from England, kind of obscure, Loaded from 1990, I want to say 96. And it is I'd say it's a combination between Masterpiece Theater and Friday the 13th. Group of kids making a horror movie in an abandoned mansion. Something's gonna go wrong, but there's a lot of elements and mood and ideas that are discussed. It's not straight out horror. I really liked it. What did I miss here? I don't think I missed anything. Okay, well, those were some weird choices, you've got to admit. Comment below, like, and subscribe. You got to admit, it's got some weirdness in there. But thanks for watching.